21. Here to help us make sense of all of it, Dave Dulio, professor of political science and director of the Center for Civic Engagements at Oakland University. Professor Dulio, thanks for being with us.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mike.
So would you say that this is more evidence of Trump having a hard time fundraising, or more evidence that Ron DeSantis is just really good at it?
I think it's both, and I know that that's a terrible answer when you weren't looking for, but it's both. DeSantis has got a fundraising network that he has built over the years that he has been active in electoral politics, and that is starting to pay off. On the Trump side, this is something that a lot of observers pointed to when Trump was making noise about running again in 2024, wondering if he would be able to raise the funds needed to compete and dominate the GOP primary field. Because any number of former Trump financial backers have come out and said that they aren't going to support him this time. But you mentioned those poll numbers, and at this point, it seems like it's not hurting him in any real way. I'll take you back to 2016 when he beat Hillary Clinton. He was vastly outspent on the campaign side in that election year. So he's proven already that he doesn't have to have the most money in order to come out on top.
Yeah, and I think it was either you or Professor Trumbore who coined the term that Trump is the king of earned media, and that's probably the most true analysis I've heard about his success ever.
Absolutely, and you see that coming to fruition yet again. He's got this town hall coming up next week on CNN that has already produced all kinds of earned media for the former president, all kinds of speculation, some cheering on the right, as well as some hand-wringing, and certainly some gnashing of teeth on the left, wondering why CNN is giving him a platform. But it's playing right into his hands.
Right, and I remember back a month or so ago when Donald Trump was indicted by a Manhattan court for allegations of hush money paid to Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election, that we thought that Donald Trump was going to just fundraise and just make a killing off that, which hasn't really seemed to be the case thus far. And it makes me wonder if some of these legal battles, not only the New York case, but the Mar-a-Lago raid, the investigation into him trying to tamper with the Georgia election, if that's actually hurting his fundraising.
Oh, I think it is. I think all of the, it may not be death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it certainly is hurting him in that one respect. And I think that it's those financial backers saying to themselves and others, frankly, hey, look, we've had enough. We're looking for a new dog in this fight.
So there was something curious when it came to the spending, and I might just be a rube here, but Ron DeSantis is still spending out of a PAC that he established back in November 2018. He was spending out of it as of the end of March. My question is, how can he still be spending money out of a PAC if he's not running for governor of Florida, and he's not officially running for president yet?
Well, that's a very fine question. You're far from a rube on that one. This is in the mix and swirl that is incredibly complex in regards to campaign finance laws, federally and in all the 50 states. They're all different, and they all have a mountain of complexity to them. My best guess, we'd have to go back and look at the numbers and the law in Florida. My best guess is that he is using that PAC money not as electioneering, but as issue advertisements. Where and here's where the lawyers would come in and tell us we're splitting hairs, and rightfully so, to abide by the law. But there are certain ways candidates and other political actors can spend money that is legal in one context and illegal in another. So I'm sure that the DeSantis folks have crossed their T's and dotted their I's in terms of what they can and cannot do. But it is a perfect example of the great complexity and really getting lost in the weeds of campaign finance law.
Well, yeah, and maybe what he does is he puts out like an anti-abortion commercial, anti-abortion ad, and it was paid for by friends of Ron DeSantis, but it's not a vote for Ron DeSantis ad, but it's one of his key issues that he's running on.
Bingo.
Do you think so? Going back to the beginning of the story, Ron DeSantis is out fundraising Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is way ahead of him in the polls. Do you think that that's proof that these culture war issues that Ron DeSantis has attached himself with, whether it be his little squabble with Disney or his 6-week abortion ban, does that lead us to the conclusion that maybe these culture war issues are good for fundraising but not necessarily good for getting votes from the electorate?
Well, I think that different issues will attract different voters. And Ron DeSantis can't win the GOP nomination on these culture war issues alone. He's going to have to, at some point, come out and create some contrast between himself and former President Trump on issues like the economy, immigration, foreign policy, right? The big issues that are of concern to the American people, right? It would be interesting to see, for instance, how they, or if they differ on what the U.S. should do or what Congress ought to do in terms of these debt limit negotiations that are likely to start here between the president and the Speaker McCarthy. But until DeSantis, that is, comes out and talks about other issues, I think you might see him stick around that level of support that he has so far.
Bringing it back here to Michigan, Nolan Finley wrote a piece earlier wondering where all the GOP Senate candidates are. And it's a really good question. I mean, we've got names like Alyssa Slotkin out in front on the Democrat side. And for years and years, Republicans have been trying to do everything they could to get a seat in Senate, in the U.S. Senate. Almost did it with John James last election cycle. But it doesn't seem like they have any front runners or they're really pushing anyone to take that nomination. What do you make of that?
Yeah, Nolan's column is, as usual, right on the money here, and it's he points out two items that are problems for the state Republicans. One is the status of the party organization, and two is the lack of any real front runner candidate. And I think that the second one flows from the first, right? The questions about who is going to run for U.S. Senate, or if any additional candidates are going to run for U.S. Senate on the Republican side, can at least in part be tied back to questions about the strength organizationally and the strength in terms of fundraising on the state party side. There are plenty of names that would make for a really competitive, I think, and high quality contest between themselves and Alyssa Slotkin. You can go down the list from former House members like Mike Bishop, Fred Upton, Mike Rogers. You can talk about somebody like Candace Miller or Ruth Johnson. And the problem is for those candidates is, number one, are they going to have the support that they would need from the state party to be successful? And two, could they survive a Republican primary if somebody from the sort of Trump wing of the party got in? Because all of those folks that I mentioned are the quote unquote establishment Republicans, which the grassroots of the party right now, the activists, don't want to have anything to do with, it seems.
Dave Dooley, professor of political science and director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Thanks for spending some time with us and helping us sort out this mess that's going to be the 2024 election season.
Anytime, Mike. Thanks for having me.
It's the Guy Gordon Show on WJR.